Part 4. Infinity. How many problems does Halo 4's campaign have? After beating Secret Easter Egg Mission 3.5, called 810Ks, the 77.8-kilometer-long race beyond the horizon, you arrive at the crash site of the mighty UNSC Infinity, which has been grounded thanks to Requiem's powerful, selectively functional gravity well. Here, after linking up with Marines, including Thomas Lasky, Cortana heavily criticizes Captain Del Rio's decision to send out scout teams to find the coordinates of the gravity well during the attack on the ship.
You were sent on a scouting run in the middle of an attack on the ship.
So wait, isn't Infinity humanity's most powerful capital ship, manned by 17,000 military service members?
Home to 17,000 of our best, our brightest.
And hundreds of Spartans?
The potential of 300 to 500 new Spartans aboard a huge new warship.
If Infinity is this strong and well-staffed, what is so wrong about Del Rio not just playing defense? Why does Cortana hate the idea of Del Rio sending a contingent of troops to find how to free his ship? Why does she think it is so obviously smarter to commit everything to a single-minded defense where Infinity is cornered and helpless, facing potentially endless waves of Covenant and Promethean forces? Sending a few squads out to try to find a way to escape is called taking the initiative.
You were sent on a scouting run in the middle of an attack on the ship.
You know what? This line of dialogue is so stupid, I'm gonna harp on it. It's supposed to make you start to hate Del Rio, but it's only ever made me hate 343's writing. I mean, Cortana's a smart AI, but I can only call it thoughtless, teenage military logic for the writers to argue that the only worthwhile defensive strategy is to hold your position to the last man. To illustrate 343's stupidity, let's see how their logic would sound in real-life conflicts by playing a game called 343 Industries vs. Military History. First up, 343 Industries vs. Marshal Zhukov during the Battle of Stalingrad. You were sent on a pincer movement against Romanians in the middle of an attack on the city.
Yeah. Are you honestly suggesting it would have been better to keep funneling troops into the city to defend it, instead of surprising and surrounding the attackers?
Point Zhukov. Our second matchup is 343 Industries versus Ulysses S. Grant during the Siege of Vicksburg. You were sent to besiege a city in the south, in the middle of Robert E. Lee's invasion of the north.
Indeed, sir. My offensive split the Confederacy in half.
Point Grant. Finally, 343 Industries versus Commander Thomas Lasky on Requiem.
You were sent on a scouting run in the middle of an attack on the ship.
Yeah, and we got the coordinates to the gravity well that's been trapping us.
Did you get the coordinates to that gravity well?
Affirmative, sir.
So now we just need to launch a missile, and kaboom! Kablam! We're up and running. Off we go. Roll credits. You see, these are the kinds of inexcusable mistakes that happen when you don't let anyone proofread your script.
If an audience's ability to enjoy a story hinges on them immediately swallowing and accepting whatever superficial garbage they're spoon-fed, the story has problems.
Speaking of which, here's another example.
Knight! Wait, what's he doing?
Covenant?
They're working with the Prometheans?
Yes, Cortana, the aliens who bowed down to the Didact and flew their ships in formation alongside the Didact's tennis ball are in fact working with the Didact. I'm stunned, aren't you stunned?
Oh, I don't think so.
I might actually be stunned at how quickly the Didact unified the Covenant too if we had been told anything about why we're still fighting Covenant. We're basically halfway into the story and none of our questions about the Covenant have been answered, or even mentioned again. Spoiler alert, they never will be.
I thought we had a truce with the Covenant.
A lot can happen in 4 years.
Are these Covenant loyalists? Or separatists who turned against humanity? Or another faction entirely? The only reason you as a player have to hate the Covenant is continuity with what they did in past Halos. Which is a very interesting storytelling decision considering that 343 severed continuity with past Halos in almost every other way. Forward Unto Dawn's weapons, vehicles, Chief's armor, the UNSC logo, Forward Unto Dawn itself, the look and sound of all Covenant technology, and even entire species.
You are Forerunner!
The Foreigners have returned.
Let me re-emphasize that the only explanation offered within the entire game for why we're fighting the Covenant again is...
A lot can happen in 4 years.
7 words.
Well, I think you'll find that Halo Cryptum provides an indispensable foundation
And then
for
there are
understanding
crucial
the events
plot
of
points
Halo
explained
4.
in
This
Primordium.
is extremely
Really,
important.
if you haven't read every
But
single
for this to make
page of
sense,
Halo
you need to have
4,
recently
you
read
haven't
the book
begun
guide
your
at least
research,
twice. You
Glasslands
aren't getting the full
lays
story.
the groundwork for several
And then
items
there's
that
the
arise in
original
the Glasslands
Glasslands
guide
is
as
itself
well.
the first in a trilogy of books.
Backstory is
Halo
what makes
Mythos
Halo
helps
4
to
flesh out what
masterpiece.
happened in Halo 4.
Another piece of the puzzle is
no
Greg
one
Bear's
doubts the
novel
importance of
Silentium,
reading
which
these
you
books,
definitely
and
need to
read
see
in full.
Sarah Palmer's
Mortal
character.
Dictata
The graphic
is, of
novel
course, a
Halo
significant
Initiative.
novel.
Thursday
You will
War
find
could
signs and
argue
arteries
that
of the Halo
Thursday is a
universe.
better day
If you
because
haven't read
Vision
Friday, I don't know
also
what
a
to tell
valuable
you.
graphic novel
343
series
is
for your
building a
coffee table.
universe
Come
here.
on, aren't you a real Halo fan?
Off. I don't have time to take a year off and get a worthless doctorate in every branch of Halo's backstory before playing a single effing video game. I know there are narratively challenged people out there who will always argue this point, but anyone with a functional prefrontal cortex should know you have to tell the story of a game within that game.
The number one thing that we want to do is make sure that every story we tell in the Halo universe from this point out, whether it's a novel, whether it's a live-action digital series, whether it's a brand new way to play cooperative multiplayer, whether it's the campaign and the cinematics itself, everything is going to count, and everything is going to be connected.
A lot can happen in 4 years.
The universe is not sitting around waiting for somebody to find Master Chief.
A lot can happen in 4 years.
A lot's happened since the end of Halo 3.
A lot can happen in 4 years.
Well, what happened? With 343 burying plot points in books, interviews, and other outside content, it shouldn't be a surprise when fans say,
This doesn't make any sense.
Every novel that you've read in the last couple of years, every comic book, the terminals in Halo Anniversary Edition, everything is feeding directly into the story for the next Halo trilogy.
I'm gonna take that book and I'm gonna beat you to death with it.
I shouldn't have to say this, but if a story doesn't stand on its own, it should go back to the editing room, not into the Entertainment and Devices Division revenue footnote of Microsoft's annual financial statements. Back in Infinity, linear path, tank. Linear path, Mantis. Linear path, finale of mission where there's finally at least some decently entertaining combat. But, so, did the greenish Covenant battlecruisers ever look weird to you? Oh wait, sorry. Of all the artistic and menacing Covenant warships that dominate Halo lore, including assault carriers, CCS-class battlecruisers, destroyers, and corvettes, 343 decided that the Covenant in Halo 4 should instead operate the least intimidating warships possible. These are cruisers, but although they may look a lot like the battlecruisers you faced in earlier Halo games, that's not what they are. 343 gave these ships the spotlight. CRS-Class light cruisers, which are the exact same shape as battlecruisers, but simply smaller. How creative, 343. Light cruisers are puny embarrassments and are by far the smallest Covenant warships prominently featured in any Halo game through this point in the series. Here's a direct quote from one of those books Frank O'Connor begged the fans to read. A light cruiser isn't considered a threat. So, to sum up Halo 4's villains, the Didact flies a tennis ball, and the Covenant's warships aren't a threat. Well, now I'm really on the edge of my seat. God, this campaign is deep. Like a sinkhole. Please,
Play through Halo 4 and strain your ears for any reference to the fact that these are a completely different class of cruiser from what you faced in previous games.
Aboard one of their cruisers, the Truth and Reconciliation.
They're going to try to take our MAC guns offline. Give their capital ships a straight shot at Earth.
We've got a cruiser heading our way that will blow us out of the sky long before that.
It's not mentioned. I guess this is creativity in 343's mind? To secretly stuff their game with a new class of ship that looks like the old ones but is just shrunken? So anyway, when you first saw these what you thought were battle cruisers but were actually light cruisers, and all these crates, and more, you as a player probably thought that something looked off about them compared to every other piece of Covenant tech you've ever seen in your life. Something about this Covenant art style seems not right. And that is entirely logical, since this jungle green glow was something new that 343 added to the Covenant aesthetic. Covenant tech was never green before. And the last time we saw green Covenant ships, they were, oh yeah, Covenant separatists. When these, according to the lore, are supposedly Storm Covenant. Which, for the record, is another pair of words that never once appears within Halo 4 itself.
The Covenant conflict and the current state of that conflict will be explained in the game. It will all be fully self-contained within Halo 4. You don't have to go read all that fiction to understand it.
Not true.
Priority is to free Infinity from Requiem's gravity well and file a threat assessment back at FleetCom.
You mean we're leaving?
Sir, Infinity drove the Didact back. He's vulnerable.
Yeah, is he though? He seemed to take these hits pretty well. Mat cannons, broadswords, and missiles are a lot of firepower, but apparently not enough. His tennis ball looks unscratched and certainly hasn't lost air. Not to mention his remaining fleet of battle light cruisers is still happily humming along. But I guess we have to be told that the Didact is vulnerable, even though everything we've been shown screams to the contrary. What's that basic rule of storytelling again? It's, oh god, what is it? What is it? Whew. At least we made it through a whole cutscene without needing to facepalm so hard we get a concussion. Let's move on to, oh god.